Okay, this is part two of Is Harvard a Joke? I actually meant to include this yesterday, but I forgot. So, anyways, what's this about? Harvard no longer requires the SAT or the ACT. Here it is, right from their own place. Stanford, same thing. SAT and ACT no longer required. And so, what is that? Well, the SAT, standardized tests are really sort of how much have you memorized by the end of your junior year of high school. And the relevance, I think, is that high school and college are basically a memorization contest. And it's almost like, it's been described as a horse race, and whoever the fastest horse is gets there the better grades. But is that really meaningful in terms of intelligence? And I think it's partially meaningful in the sense that it takes a little bit of thinking to solve a math problem. Most of the verbal stuff is do you have experience with the words or not? For example, at the end of my junior year, I took the SAT, ACT cold. I didn't prepare for them at all. I didn't even think about it. I went out the night before because my attitude was I'm an athlete. I don't care about this stupid test. I didn't see myself as a student. I just wanted to get good enough grades. My parents would let me go out on the weekends, but I didn't really think about school in a serious way. I always figured my career is I'm going to be NCAA champion, then I'll be a college coach. But anyways, I mentioned that because I then hurt my shoulder and joined cross country in the spring because I couldn't wrestle for a while. I had fractured my growth plate in my clavicle, collarbone. So all the cross country runners, because I could run, so I joined cross country, they were the best students in the school, and they had scored much higher than I did on the SAT, ACT test. And I was jealous of them, because I'm kind of a real competitive. I'm like, why not me? Why can't I be the best? And so I would play like Monopoly or Stratego with these guys, and I could play the games with them. They weren't that much smarter than me, so I was pissed off. And I also was scared because I thought, gosh, I might not be a good athlete anymore. I might have to become serious about school. Maybe I should try to do better on this test. So I took it two more times, the SAT test, for example. My score went up like almost 300 points. So the point is, a person can really go up a lot in these tests. All I did was I bought the book, and I just started going through the book over and over and over again. And so it was those two things, being jealous of the other guys and wanting to do well because I'm afraid, I'm going to have to become an academic. But the point I'm saying is anyone could do that. Anyone could buy those books. It's not like I spent any money on the book. It cost me like, what, $10? And I think that, how students do on those SAT, ACT tests, they're a good predictor of what kind of grades they get in college. If you read a lot, you'll do good on the verbals, even if you don't prepare for it. Math, requires, I think, a little bit more ability to think, but you also have to be interested in math. I'm going to tell you this one more story about math because I'm getting at what does it take to be good at the game of college. And in my senior year of high school, I took a math class with one of the wrestling coaches who I didn't like because I was mad at him because he pressured me to wrestle, like calling me a chicken and a wimp kind of. And I came back too soon and I refractured my collarbone. So I was kind of pissed off at him, and he was my math teacher. The relevance being, because I was mad at him, I was a little brat and I didn't study. I didn't study as much as I should. I was getting an F. There was a letter sent home to my parents that I was flunking my statistics class and mathematics as a senior in high school. And the letter to my parents said I have to retake the math exams right at the end of Christmas break. Otherwise, I will get an F for the class. And I didn't want to get an F. So they allowed me to switch to pass or fail. And all day long on my Christmas break of my senior year, I studied statistics, which, believe me, was the last thing I wanted to do on my Christmas break. But the relevance was I did it and I got a pass just barely. Then once it became clear I couldn't compete in the state tournament because of injuries my senior year of high school wrestling, so I was devastated by that. I wanted to run away from home. I was pissed off at my father who wouldn't let me run away from home because I wanted to take a year off so I can come back and be state champion in wrestling. And I also realized, man, I'm going to have to get serious about school. This wrestling business might be over, and my social status just plummeted. So I started to study, the SAT math was a good little bit of a refresher. And then I realized, gosh, I got to take calculus. I'm going to take calculus in the junior college because I was going to try to wrestle at Stanford. But the point was, I did all this by myself. There was no class. My father didn't even talk to me about it. My parents were just like, they were oblivious. My dad worked all the time. My mom was a housewife and, she loved me and was nice to me, but no one told me what to do. I just bought the books, went through my old books, and I retaught myself all the high school mathematics so that when I would take calculus in the summer at a junior college, I'd be ready. I had all the baseline mathematics. And I took it at a JC because I knew I wasn't going to be ready to take it at Stanford, and I was going to be busy trying to wrestle and take other classes. But the point I'm making was, this was not a question of racism or parenting or social advantage. No, I knew I wanted to do it, so I did it. And anybody could dramatically improve themselves. When I took calculus in summer school, I crushed it. I got an A+. I just dominated the whole class. And the reason I say that is I went from being an F to an A+ simply because of a change in my personality. I go, math is important. I have to learn this. If I'm ever going to do anything in sciences, I'm going to have to take this calculus class. Therefore, I must get good at it. Maybe it'll be useful for something. So what I'm trying to say is that's a giant part of academic achievement. People who deny that don't know what they're talking about. It's a giant part of academic achievement. Your personality, your desire to learn, your willingness to forego all the social activities that are fun to just sit by yourself in a room and study. And there's tons of things to help you. Nowadays, you can go on a computer and be helped, you know. For everything else, there's a competition. There's a competition if you want to be a musician. You have to audition. There's a competition if you want to be on a sport. You have to compete. In wrestling, you have to wrestle off. Is SAT the best competition for academics for getting into a college? Well, I'll tell you one thing I liked about it, like for getting into medical school. You know, there are some people that say, well, some people have advantages and all this stuff, okay? Well, first of all, some people say it's racist. I think that's BS because, you know, people from Japan, from Korea, from India, they have to take the test. My mother was a fuzzy foreigner off the boat from Puerto Rico, okay? You know, I don't have any social advantages. I didn't have any connections. I didn't know anybody. I still don't know anybody, okay? What else am I saying? Also, this business about high schools and colleges trying to help students, I think that's all a bunch of BS, and including all the minority students. I'll tell you why. After I wrote my book about study skills, I sent letters to like 200 schools. Not a single one of them invited. I offered to lecture for free because I was kind of curious to try it out, all the things that I had learned about study skills. Not a single place wanted me even to speak to the students. The high school principals to me seemed like a warden. They want to babysit the students so their mothers can go off and work and they can control the kids and brainwash them. And they had no interest in helping them because if you bring in an outsider like a maverick, if he helps the kids and it makes you look bad, why didn't you help the kids? And if he doesn't help the kids and he makes a jerk of himself, then it's like, well, why'd you bring this jerk here? So either way, they don't want any outside help coming to teach their kids, which is ridiculous to me, okay? I had gotten like 99%, crushed my boards in medical school and in residency. In residency, I was done in like an hour and 10 minutes on a 4.5-hour test with a perfect score. So the reason I say that is I know academics backwards and forwards and how to dramatically improve performance. But no one would want to speak to me. And it's so bizarre to me. It's totally different than wrestling. In wrestling, if you're a star athlete, they want you to come back to your high school and teach. I came back to my high school and taught. They want you to come back to the local colleges and teach. I came back and taught wrestling at the local colleges. They all wanted to see you. When a great athlete comes by, like Mark Schultz, Dave Schultz, everybody's happy to see them. Okay, it's not like that in academics. When it's in academics, they say, go screw yourself. They don't want you around. The same thing too. All these minority centers that claim to be helping minority students, they did not want me to teach their kids, okay? I've talked to some people at LinkedIn, for example. Would you like me to teach? Would you like me to give a lecture? Because for me, it's kind of fun. I could do this on the internet now. No one wants you to teach their kids. What I mean by that is I'm talking about high school, college level students to help prepare them. I've had plenty of students. I've had guys who flunked their boards 5 times. I studied with them twice. They passed their boards. So the reason I say this is people don't really care about students. Anyone who says they do, in my experience, it's just a big lie. It's just like a lot of people say, oh, they care about patients. BS. There's no money in true caring, okay? True caring is usually love, okay? And love is a rare thing. Okay, what else did I like about the test? It was a level playing field, okay? So I can compete with somebody from any ethnic group, from any location, with any amount of money, who went to the fanciest prep schools, Groton and all these, Exeter and all these places. Good. I like that. Okay, I always thought Stanford standardized tests were an opportunity to have a fair chance to compete. Just like you got a fair chance to compete on a wrestling mat. You got a fair chance to compete, you know, hopefully in a music audition. Let's see, what else? So anyways, I thought that was kind of interesting. And, you know, the colleges should have some way of grading the kids. You know, you do that for everything else. And what is happening in medicine? Medicine, I see it going into this like checkbox mentality, which I'm not impressed by. You know, and then now there's talk about going into AI. I mean, it's all ridiculous. What do you think is going to happen with AI? It's going to be written by the pharmaceutical company. It's going to say, give more drugs, give more drugs. Okay, and I think also, too, there's also pressure on being conformist. I wish there was a way to test creativity and original thinking. I don't know if there is. I know what it is when I see creative, intelligent work. All doctors are hard workers because you got to do a ton of work just to get through med school and to succeed as a doctor, and because there's a ton of work and they get taken advantage of to make them work more. You don't have to be that smart. A lot of doctors are not that smart. But anyways, I thought that this was seemed to me letting go of a standard, and they don't have a new standard to replace it. I thought that was bad. And I thought that makes it unfair. I mean, if you have a standardized test, you can't cheat that easy. Once you get rid of the standardized test, you can just make up a rule for anything. And that sounds kind of like BS that, whoever has the biggest sob story, that's the marker of talent. Can you imagine if we handled sports that way? Whoever has the biggest sob story, they get to be the starter on the football team, on the wrestling team. No, you compete, and whoever's the best should be. That's how you produce excellence. So a lot of this stuff, I don't really think it's right or fair. I think it's a whole bunch of BS. Okay, here's another thing. Is Harvard a joke? What I'm getting at is what I see happening in science is that more and more stuff is becoming fake. The old definition of science was experimental results are reproducible, or you have a theory that's plausible and it enables you to make accurate predictions. That's useful. Or you have a theory that corresponds to a tremendous amount of experience, and it might be tentative, but it works. Okay, those are reasonable definitions of science. Okay, but here's what I see as the new definition of the so-called world of atheism science. Science is whatever big money says it is. Whatever big pharma says, that's science, and you have to go by it. Okay, and then somebody's paid off to say that's what we're going by, and you have to go by it. And if you don't go by it, you get in trouble. So you want to talk about going by dogma? It's totally dogmatic. And basically, what they're saying is science is whatever they damn well say it is. And if you don't like it, then you either comply and conform, or you're out. You'll be removed from your job. You'll be removed from your ability to practice that area, and that's bogus. Okay, and now it's even worse. If you don't go with whatever big money says, you can be charged with spreading misinformation or with something else. Okay, this is ridiculous. This is Orwellian. Okay, so anyways, I see a tremendous deterioration in the universities from where I was at back in the 1980s, and they had a lot of problems back then. So Harvard's sort of considered the pinnacle of the university system. Places like Harvard and Stanford and the Ivy League, but they're really in sad shape, and they're not doing their job, and it's getting worse, not better. So anyways, just good for people who are aware of this. So I wouldn't waste your money a lot of these places because the teaching is not very good at these places, and you just have the big name, and the big name's not going to mean so much if there isn't something that makes it difficult to get in academically. That's actually a competitive thing. So anyways.